this file and show it to you. The task number 5, I added another thing, and that is you can do metaphoric symbolic extension, or you can do a creative revision of the part related to your passage, or the plot related to your passage. Okay, and then finally you can talk about the relevance. It's relevant to you. I think by next Tuesday I will add a bit of the suggested questions for you to think about. But for now, I would like to keep them blank. I mean, I would like to give you just the passages first, so that you are not limited by my questions. You can look at the passages and consider how you can analyze the passage assigned to you, and also the context and everything, etc. Okay. And next Tuesday, I'll give you some suggested questions. Okay. Okay, isn't it exciting? We're about to finish Frankenstein. Okay, so today, we again have a lot of interesting things to do. But before we start, I will do a bit of the plot summary for you, because I know that it may not be easy for you to remember which chapter deals with which. Okay, so the plot summary can help. And then I'll give you some questions, and we'll talk about the turning points. The turning points, as I said, there are 2 major turning points. One is the encounter between the Frankenstein and the monster, in which Frankenstein agrees to create a female monster. And then the second one is when he breaks his promise and destroys the female monster. Okay, so we'll talk about the changes, and then we'll discuss how the journey. It's kind of confusing, the route. Well, it's confusing for me as an old person. It's hard for me to remember, the places. But I want to talk about it on 2 symbolic levels. One is how the geography has to do with revolution. And the other is how it's actually also a kind of a psychological geography, for Frankenstein to get closer and closer to the monster, become more and more similar to the monster. Okay, so that's the 2 kinds of geography I'm going to discuss until I show you that the 2 of them actually are double to each other. Okay. And we'll also talk about the filmic variations. I'm not going to analyze all the films, which is just impossible. But I'll show you how a few films interpret the major moments differently. For instance, the nature of the monster, or how they resolve the problem of the monster, or whether there will be the female monster, and how the female monster responds to the monster, etc. Okay, and then we'll talk about the beginning of chapter 24 if we have time. Okay, and next time we'll finish the whole novel, and then you'll get ready for the discuss and learn activity. Next Tuesday, I'll also start to introduce the death of a salesman. I found out that I'm making the same mistake I made last semester, and that is leaving the most important journal till the end. I don't know how to. I don't know. I don't think there is a way for me to avoid it this time. Remember, last semester, the last journal was due. I think before the end of last year, as the Christmas time, and you were very miserable then, and the TAs were miserable too, because they were busy reading your journals. All of us were busy reading your journals, but it just happened that we have 2 activities, and then the journal was like pushed to the end. Okay, so I want to start the depth of assessment a little bit early, starting with next Tuesday. And then maybe you can start to write your journal earlier. This way you don't feel... and then also I hope that the journal can also be a way for you to prepare for the final exam. So that way it won't be that much of a burden for you, okay? Yeah. So sorry, I didn't think carefully about this. Otherwise, I would want to avoid that, but I still don't know how. Yeah, okay. Because compared with the two other activities, I guess journal is the most difficult, and also the most individual assignment. So it should be somewhere toward the end of the semester. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Plus summary. So first we have the external frame of Wharton, and we compare a lot how Wharton is similar to and different from Frankenstein, and how he discovered Frankenstein. Okay, and then the first two chapters shows a kind of paradise which is about to be lost. Okay, and that is the bliss, family bliss Frankenstein has before he moves on to study at Ingolstadt. Also, we can see that Frankenstein is different from Elizabeth and Clerval. Both of them are very different. Also, in the beginning part, we see that there are some common points among the female characters, from Caroline to Elizabeth to Justine and then to Sophie. There are some common points. They are or either from poor family or orphan, or both. Okay. And then starting with chapter 3 to chapter 5. Chapter 3 to 5 describes the process of the studies, how he learns from the professors, and then he studies by himself about animating life. And as he does that, he gets separated from his family and his duties. And in chapter 5, we have the very interesting dream after the creation, after he finds out that his creature, is not beautiful at all. He has a dream and wakes up and then escapes. Okay, so yes, and then after he comes back, the monster is nowhere to be found. So that's a kind of temporary relief from the horror over his own creation. Today we also talk about how Frankenstein is escapist in some way. He delays. He has a lot of delays in facing the consequences of his action. This is a major one because he refuses to tell Henry what happened, and then he refuses to tell the other people what happened. If he could have owned up about what he did, he just feels that the other people would not believe him. But it's hard to say, if they can get to believing him, then maybe through some collective efforts, the tragedy could have been avoided. But he is not telling, leads to the death of first William and then Justine, and that's when chapter 7 tragedy begins. Also, we see Justine's trial, and then how she's executed. And then we have Frankenstein again, trying very hard to regain his energy, to heal himself by going to Bellerive and then going to Montevert. Montevert is the mountain. There is a long stripe of glacier called Glace de Mer. I think it's called something like Glacier of the Sea. It's a very beautiful glacier in Alps. Okay, and Montevert is below Mont Blanc, so it's part of the Glace de Mer. So there he encounters a monster, And then we have the monster telling Frankenstein what he experiences. So the monster story starts with chapter 11 to chapter 17. So it's kind of framed by the monster's request of Frankenstein to be responsible and to create a mate for him. So starting with chapter 18, Frankenstein is in action, but he still delays. He goes with Henry to London, and then around London to the Lake District, which is the favorite area for Wordsworth, the Lake Point. Okay, and then he finally decides to move on to Scotland, and then leave Henry alone to Orkney Island to start the creation process by himself. But in chapter 20, and this is a chapter I think Weber just asked about. In chapter 20, Victor Frankenstein thought about all the possible consequences, and then decides to destroy the monster. Okay, and that's when the monster, the female monster, and that's when the monster is very angry, and then says that, I'll be with you on your wedding day, and that becomes an omen that Frankenstein is haunted by. Okay, on his way to back to Ireland, he is caught and imprisoned because of the death of Henry, because the other people saw that he is suspicious. And then he gets Elizabeth's letter. He goes home, facing the request of his father and Elizabeth of getting married. But Frankenstein is always haunted by the warning of the monster. But very interestingly, Frankenstein still refuses to tell Elizabeth what really happens. He says, I'm going to tell you this on the second day of our marriage. So this delay is very a curious one, a puzzling one. Well, we don't know why he has this delay. Okay, and then unfortunately, we see Elizabeth's dad killed by the monster. Okay, so the last chapter shows Frankenstein trying to track the monster, and also we have again the external frame of Walters writing the letters and meeting the monster. Okay, so this is just a quick summary of the story, and these are the questions. Maybe not. Well, maybe I'll get two of you to respond to any of the questions, and then we'll start our discussion. If we have more time, maybe you can do it. Answer the questions in your discuss and learn, or towards the end of today's class. If I'm able to finish the introduction of the different films treatments of the crucial parts of the story. Okay, so I think our discussion of chapter 18 to 23, or the beginning of 24, has some really crucial issues. For instance, why Frankenstein break his promise, and would you do it if you were Frankenstein? Okay, and we have the tragedies happening after the destruction of the female monster at a kind of increasing speed, like one after another, and it gets more and more horrible. So I'm asking you what you find to be the most horrible part of this story. In other words, now it's about time for us to look at the story as a whole. Do you find it horrible? What is for you the most horrible part of the story? Okay. And this is a question I got from a previous class. One group asked this question of the classmates. If Frankenstein did not promise the monster to produce a mate, would the ending change? In other words, I think, as I said, I think there are two major turning points. One is the promise of making the female mate. Of course, the first is creation. And then the encounter where Frankenstein agrees to produce a mate. And then the third turning point, Frankenstein break his promise and destroy the mate. So these are the three major turning points. And from our perspective, it's always interesting to ask what we would have done, if we were in his position. If we, talking about creation, of course you will say that, oh, I'm not a scientist. Of course, I'm not going to do this kind of creation. But a lot of you are women, right? You may give birth to a baby. And it's hard, and it's hard to tell, before the baby is out, whether the baby is normal from the according to the social standards or not. Okay, so I guess this is a question that can be relevant to us. Also, we can also extend it to not talk about creation, but to talk about like communication and education. There are moments when you may change another person, or educate another person as a tutor, as a teacher, or as a lover. You may change another person, and then if you change another person, would you be able to face the consequences? Or your roles in all the changes. Yeah. So I guess these are the related questions we can all consider. Could I get just two persons to respond now? Why Frankenstein break the promise, and whether you would do it if you were Frankenstein? How about Vivian? Vivian from this side, and Toby, or Toby, right? Kobe from that side. 好了。You can choose any of the questions.
I choose number 1.
Okay, but let me interrupt a little bit. Today I'm going to introduce some of the films. Some films are really graphic, grotesque. And you also know that there are related films. I know that one film was played several times on the cable channel called Wolfman. Something like Wolfman, 狼人. Okay, so I think the vampire story, Wolfman story, monster story, usually involves some horrifying and graphic details. Okay, so I'm asking you what you find to be horrible in this novel, but not the films. Okay, yeah, Vivian.
I think Frankenstein broke his promise because he isn't sure what will happen after he creates the female monster, because the female monster might not agree with the monster to go with him and to disappear. And the female monster might have her own thoughts, and so she might want to get married with a real human, not with a monster. Yeah, so Frankenstein is worried about that. It might cause a greater chaos.
Right. Very good. This is the two reasons you gave are from page 165, the beginning of chapter 20. She might become, the middle of this chapter, this first paragraph, she might become 10,000 times more malignant than her mate. Okay, or she who in all probability was to become a thinking and reasoning animal might refuse to comply with a compact made before her creation. So these are the two possible reasons. Also, in the next paragraph, one of the first results of those sympathies for which the demon thirsted will be children. Okay, and a race of devils will be propagated upon the earth. So that this is a third reason. So all of these reasons are part of them he thought about before the creation, but in the process of the creation, he thinks more clearly about the possible consequences. Yeah. Okay. Very good. Could you pass the mic to Kobe? Huh? Oh, okay. How about Jennifer? Either one, either of the three, any of the three.
I want to answer the third question.
I
think if Frankenstein did not promise the monster to produce a mate, I think the ending may be changed. Because if he didn't promise the monster, and it means that he didn't give the monster a hope. So the hope is not, if the hope is not destroyed, then I think the ending will not be such a tragedy.
Okay. Very soon I'm going to show you the first version of Frankenstein, a filmic version of Frankenstein, which shows that there's no such thing of a female mate. But the ending is as tragic. It ends with the death of the monster. Okay. Yeah. So we'll talk about that soon. Okay, so here is just a summary. I don't think I need to go over all of them. The major turning points. Here he asked for the maid, and then it's very interesting that if you see the description, Frankenstein not only talk about the consequences, he feels the consequences. You know, this time Frankenstein is a lot more human than the first creation he does. You know, in the first creation, he just all of a sudden realized that this creature is ugly, and then he runs away. But this one, he thought about the possible consequences, and then when he gets rid of the destroyed female monster, he feels that he is dealing with human flesh. So in other words, he knows that is a human being that is being destroyed, but not just some flashes. Okay. Page 170. Okay, the first complete paragraph, the line starting with, yet before I departed, there was a task to perform. Okay, a few lines down. I summoned sufficient courage and unlocked the door of my laboratory. The remains of the half-finished creature whom I had destroyed lay scattered on the door, and I almost felt as if I had mangled the living flesh of a human being. Okay, so this is when he needs to dispose of this leftover, this mangled body, and then he feels that it's human flesh. I think this is when Frankenstein starts to face up to the real human consequences. Also, in his consideration, he realizes that he is not just a lonely hero. You know, he's part of the human race, and that's why he needs to consider the well-being of the whole human race in his, and whether there is impact on them. Okay, so this is why Frankenstein breaks his promise at this turning point. Okay.